Good afternoon. This is Danielle Gilliland with the State Employees Credit Union. I'm the Vice President of Card Services Loss Control. I've been at the credit union for coming up on 20 years, with most of my career being spent in fraud. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk a bit about fraud and share some things you should know. Over the next few minutes, we'll be covering a lot of information, so let's get started. One of the first and most important things to know is that fighting fraud really is a joint effort. Today, we'll discuss what we at the credit union are doing to help and what you can do as well. We'll be talking specifically about card fraud. We'll talk about what it is, how it can happen, and what to do if you find yourself a victim of it. I'll also spend a few minutes sharing some of the ways your credit union is working hard to protect you. Lastly, we will wrap up with some ways that you can help. We'll talk about what you can do, what to know, and what to look for. It's easier than you think to make a big difference. What happens? One of the most frequently asked questions is, how does this happen? Before I start to elaborate on some primary methods used by fraudsters, let's back up and talk about what fraud is. In the world of payments, and more specifically cards, fraud occurs when your information is used to complete purchases you did not take part in or have knowledge of. But how do they do it? There are many ways to perpetrate fraud, from the more basic use of a lost or stolen card to the more advanced counterfeiting. Fraud can also be done without the presence of a physical card at all. In this case, the card information, such as card number and expiration date, may be used to complete purchases over the internet or by phone. Let's talk about two of the most common methods used by fraudsters: data breaches and skimming. Let's start with data breaches. A data breach involves access to sensitive information by an unauthorized party. In many cases, when a big breach has occurred, you will see it on your local news or read about it online. I'm sure you can recall several events of this kind from the headlines over the past 5 years. Data breaches may result in counterfeit fraud or in the fraudulent use of card information to make online purchases. On the other hand, skimming is a more manual technique of retrieving card information by using a small device known as a skimmer. Skimming requires physical contact with an existing card in order to copy its information. The information copied is then encoded onto a counterfeit or duplicate card. This copy is then used to make fraudulent transactions. So what do I look for? Let me start by saying it can be really difficult to detect the presence of a skimmer. However, here are a few things you can look for that may indicate a skimmer was or is present. The first is sticky residue. Sticky residue on the face of a payment terminal or near the card reader may indicate something was stuck to the machine that shouldn't have been. This could mean a skimmer was recently placed and removed. Out of place brochure stands or mirrors may also be evidence of a recent skimming event. Another indication that something may be wrong is difficulty inserting your card. This could be for any number of reasons, including broken or damaged cards that may have gotten stuck. However, this could also indicate a skimmer was or is present. So what do I do if I think a skimmer may be present? I want to be clear that these things do not mean a skimmer was definitely present, only that it might have been. Additional investigation would be required to confirm. If you frequent particular locations, you're probably more familiar with that machine or terminal than you realize. If something seems out of place, let us know. While skimming may occur anywhere a card is accepted, the anonymity and availability of terminals make gas pumps and ATMs among the most prevalent targets. One of the most simple yet effective ways to help combat skimming is by shielding your PIN with your hand during use. We've talked about data breaches and skimming, but what about the internet? The internet is booming with shopping opportunities and just convenience. Who doesn't love the ability to order something and have it delivered quickly, all while in the comfort of your home? Here are a few best practices to keep in mind while perusing the internet for your next deal. Shop reputable merchants. Does this merchant have an established presence? Have you heard of them, or were you referred by a friend? Look at reviews. There are hundreds of independent review sites as well as product-level reviews flooding the internet. Look at several sources for good feedback of previous buying experiences. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. That still holds true today. If that price is completely out of line with what you would expect to pay for something, ask yourself why and do some additional research. Guard your information. Social media is a great means of communication and a lot of fun, but be careful with your privacy. Guard who you are sharing with and what you're sharing. Remember, the credit union will not ask for personal information such as online credentials, account numbers, or card numbers via email, voice, or text messaging. Speaking of the credit union takes protecting your security and privacy very seriously. For this reason, we utilize a multi-layered approach to fraud prevention. We have a dedicated fraud prevention team that works around the clock, 365 days a year, to quickly identify suspicious activity occurring on your card. Our team also uses tools that allow us to decline the most suspicious activity at the point of sale based on recent fraud trends with as little inconvenience to you as possible. We work hard to minimize fraud exposure while balancing that with your ability to use your card as you choose. Many of you are wondering how you can help. One of the first and simplest steps is in monitoring your account. Check your account regularly and let us know right away if something looks off. Another great way to monitor activity is to enroll in debit alerts. You can choose to receive these alerts straight to your phone and have the ability to set some parameters around what you want to see. If you aren't currently enrolled, you can do so at any time by visiting Member Connect on the website. One of the most important and easiest means to helping us in identifying and preventing fraud is simply to ensure your contact information is up to date. If your card is presented for review with questionable activity, we will attempt to call you at your numbers on file. Making sure these numbers are current and up to date help us to quickly reach you and take appropriate action on your account. Lastly, let us know when you're traveling. We'd like to make a note so that our fraud prevention team can more accurately evaluate your card activity if you appear on our alert system while you're away. The last thing we'd ever want to do is negatively impact your trip. This information helps us make a more well-informed decision about the activity we may be reviewing. Fraud happens. It happens. Despite everything we've talked about here, all of the best practices and best efforts, in some instances, fraud will still happen. And when it does, your credit union is here. If you see unauthorized or unfamiliar activity on your account, don't wait. Notify us right away so that we may take the appropriate steps to close your card, preventing additional losses, and advise you on next steps to recover any fraud losses. Remember, you have zero liability for fraudulent charges. If your statement or account shows transactions that you did not make, notify us at once. There are strict timelines on reporting fraudulent activity. Quick communication is important to preventing additional fraud losses. Thank you. I want to thank you for letting me spend a few minutes talking fraud with you today. We've covered a lot of what I hope will be valuable information for you in the future. From what fraud is to what we can do to fight it, remember we are all in this together.